Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Hi, this is JJ, the host of this podcast, Taking Care of Lady Business. If you're here, you know my passion for making women rich. Did you know that men are 4 times more likely than women to negotiate their compensation packages? And that women are leaving about $1.5 million on the table by the time they're 60 by not negotiating? That's a lot of money, and I want it to stop. So I'm launching a course called Be the Boss of Your Career to show you how to get what you deserve. Our first live session is May 3rd, so go to www.thejusticedept.com to sign up for more information. I look forward to seeing you there and helping you get rich. Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I am Jennifer Justice. Today, we have Audrey Wisch. She's the CEO and founder of Curious Cardinals. Hi, Audrey. How are you?
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, of course. I want Curious Cardinals is such an amazing company, and I want to have you tell everybody all about it. But I mean, full disclosure, I just started with my kids in Curious Cardinals, and they're so excited about it and they love it. So, first of all, start by telling us what it is.
So Curious Cardinals connects K through 12 students to college age recent grad mentors to unlock their potential, whether it be through academic support, identifying passions, or pursuing meaningful projects. We make really meaningful mentor matches. So we are a mentorship platform, and there will be many extensions and expansions beyond that, building upon this community, but it's really based upon the premise that personalized learning from someone who you can see yourself in a way that inspires you, is the core to unlocking the awaiting potential in every child.
I love it. You're totally speaking our language, because the reason why this podcast has started, one of the reasons is like, if you can see it, you can be it, right? And there were so many women that I would come across that were so amazing and excellent, and like nobody knew who they were, like you. So, I'm excited to get into the story. So tell us like how it works exactly.
So Curious Cardinals, it's all usually word of mouth referral. Parents hear from their friends. And so they come to our website, create an account, and they can fill out the information and get matched on the website. But we really recommend having a consultation call with one of the amazing matchmakers on our team. And so they have a conversation where we ask a lot of questions. We exemplify curiosity. What's your kid's name, age? That's the basic stuff. But what are their interests? What are their superpowers? What are their areas for growth? What's an ideal mentor match for them? What does success look like here? And so we aim to develop a really holistic understanding of who their child is. So often our understanding of who children are is quite fragmented. How they show up on the soccer field versus the math versus the English classroom is all kind of a different version of themselves. And so we want to have that 360-degree understanding. And then we follow up with a student profile and a mentor match. And so we curate a really handpicked mentor match. You could say, I want a mentor who's a girl who also has dyslexia. I want a mentor who's obsessed with horseback riding. We're able to make that really personalized match across the different offerings. And then usually it's an awesome fit, and a student's so excited because it's like learning from an older aspirational version of themselves. And then they're off to the races. They create an account on our platform, typically have weekly sessions. Sometimes they meet more than once a week and work towards project deliverables or clear goal outcomes. That's a lot of what we empower mentors and mentees to do together, is learn how to set goals and how to accomplish those goals. And then we aim to support kids from 8 years old to 18-year-old on their evolving learning journey, from figuring out who they are, kind of their sense of self, to gaining the confidence to put themselves out there, and giving them kind of the plethora of mentors to gain that guidance and inspiration from as they go on that journey and as their needs and goals evolve.
And so how did you come up with mentor versus like a tutor? Because a lot of these kids can be tutored, right? It's like, a match can entail that as well, right?
Yeah. And I mean, look, our academic mentoring offering, some people call tutoring, and I will be the one to correct them.
Yeah.
Why not? Tutoring has a connotation of being transactional. It's like a remedy for Friday's test. And we've had people before be like, my kid's super stressed for Friday's test. Can we find someone? And we're like, this is not going to work as a Band-Aid solution.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to alleviate some last minute anxiety, but that's not going to identify the underlying root cause of a struggle or a lack of confidence or a procrastination issue, whatever it might be. And so where our magic happens is in that relationship. You're working with someone who you're not just learning tactical skills and tips and tricks from, but you're connecting with them, and there's the opportunity to get to know them as a human. And tutoring, as I said, it feels very limited. It feels more transactional. And I think it's all about the seeing is believing. And for me, for example, I lacked so much confidence in STEM. I was the one girl in my honors math class, and I would freak out because every other subject came so much more easily to me. And so when I struggled on a math problem, my head, those voices would go, you're stupid, you can't do this. And I had a math tutor, and frankly, it didn't help. It was a person I didn't see myself in. He was brilliant and wonderful, but it wasn't about a lack of competence. It was about a lack of confidence. I would stress myself out. I'd get in my head, and I could only imagine if I had some female engineer mentor at Stanford who was also excited about the Eras tour, whatever kind of things we shared in common, and was like, Audrey, you're so smart. Like, get out of your head, relax, it's fine. Because it was so much more about the mental element for me. And so I think if I saw they could be dynamic and fun, but also crushing it in the STEM classroom, maybe I would have felt a greater sense of belonging in those spaces.
Amazing. Is that how you came up with the idea?
No, it was.
Like,
I
no,
mean, that's why
a
the
great story.
idea
Yeah.
that's why the idea resonated. And I was like, I could have benefited from this. I needed this. I was a history major at Stanford. I was pre-law, I thought, with my 10-year life plan set and aspirations to be the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then it was my freshman year, and Stanford sent us home because of the pandemic. And I
Oh my
couldn't
God.
continue with all my extracurriculars. So I started tutoring kids and tutoring a seventh grade girl and a ninth grade girl. It started as tutoring, observed how disengaged and uninspired they were with what they were learning in school, and how they were absorbing and regurgitating what they're reading in a textbook, but they didn't know why they were learning what they were learning. So that inspired me to apply what they were learning in school to my passions, their interests, the world around them, in hopes of making their learning feel like it actually mattered. And then one of them asked for math help. There's a theme here. I wasn't so passionate about math, have that female math mentor. And so that's where Alec, my eventual co-founder, came into the picture. He was an aerospace engineer at Stanford and started applying what they were learning in math to how airplanes fly. And I'm a super connector. They started telling all of their friends, and I started making these really personalized matches. And my peers were loving it, and more people wanted to be matched, and the parents were telling all their friends. And I realized there was something really magical here. It wasn't just a tutor, it was a mentor. It was a young, inspiring, near peer adult who their child could see themselves in and look up to, and gave them optimism, gave them confidence, and gave them excitement to learn and give their best.
That's amazing. And so when did you technically like start? Because I don't know if anybody caught this, but you were a freshman in college in 2020
I was a freshman in
and
college.
it's 2024. So you just graduated. Is that right?
Oh, so I started June of 2020 is when we launched our first website. It started as a passion project. We were on CNN that fall, and we were doing some Stanford classes online, partial gap year, and it really took off in that first year. And then June of 2021, realized Stanford's not going anywhere and this opportunity could. So have not been back at Stanford
Oh
since.
my God, what a story.
Yeah, we are stop outs. My email says class of TBD, and we've been pursuing this So it's been really full time since June of 2021. And that's when we went out to raise venture capital funding, hire our first full-time employees. And we are a full-time team of 12 working remotely, but mostly based out of the Bay Area. And we have over 550 college age recent grad mentors on our platform working with kids around the globe.
Wow. So okay, this is so interesting because I think we were talking a little bit before I started, everyone feels like they need to have XYZ before they start a company, right? And it's like, here you are 1 year into college and you're like, no, this is working and I'm going to stop. And it's like no other experience as far as like a corporate job or anything like that. And you're like, I'm going to figure it out. Right. And so how did you do that? Like, what was your first step? Like, how did you know, like, you needed to form a company and how did you get a website and like, just like the small stuff. And then we'll get into the bigger, like VC kind of stuff.
The greatest gift was it starting as a passion project because that first summer I was doing research for Estelle Friedman, famous feminist history professor at Stanford on the history of sexual assault. And my co-founder had 2 internships. He was doing research at the GPS lab and for Stanford Business School. And it was our side hustle. And what ended up happening was we had main internships that summer, but we were mostly doing Curious Cardinals and every hour of working days and doing the other stuff late at nights or in the mornings and figuring it all out. But we were just so passionate about it. And I think our excitement and the communal energy, part of what has been that kind of gravitational pull this whole time around is there's been such excitement. Like the fact that these parents were telling all their friends, we had all these people who wanted to apply to be mentors because it was like, we could go somewhere to make money or we can do something meaningful. And there's very few opportunities where college kids felt like they could do both. And they were like,
Yeah.
Curious Cardinals is that we can do something that feels meaningful and rewarding and we can make money. Like, what's better? And so I think we weren't overcomplicating it because we were having so much fun
Mhm.
and so obsessed with it. And so that first year, I think, was such a gift because there was so much learning. And then a lot of opportunities emerged. And so I don't think I realized how big of a deal it was to be on CNN at fall of
Yeah.
2020 or written about in Forbes. We worked with 2 Fortune 500 companies that year. And it was just kind of like we were hustling and working around the clock and we loved it. And opportunities emerged and we seized them. And so I think that first year was this amazing catalyst. And then beyond that, it felt like it was a really, really tricky decision because I am a very passionate learner. I love school. I'm a major academic. Like that spring, I had my research published in the Stanford Historical Journal. And that was actually a dream of mine. Since pre-Stanford, I was like, I want to have my research published in Herodotus, the Stanford Historical Journal, by the time I'm a senior. And
Hmm.
suddenly I did that, like not even fully sophomore year.
Oh my
And
God.
I think it was a little bit of this comfort of maybe things don't have to work out as linearly as I thought. And
Yeah.
I had this fear, what if I don't pursue this? And it was
Hmm.
very difficult because I love school, I love my friends, but I kept saying, I'll go back one day, I'll go back next quarter. And I have so many light bulb moments, but I actually don't recall that light bulb moment when I had the self-confidence and security to say, I'm not going back to Stanford anytime soon.
Right. Wow. And I have to ask, what about your parents?
Not easy for my mother.
Yeah.
She's the best. She's a creative and has had paved her own nonlinear path, but was really, really difficult for her,
Yeah.
especially those first 2 years. My dad has, and she's supportive, but it's just really, are you sure? Do you want to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
kids? Is this the right decision? Just kind of mama worrying. I work with parents all day. I'm no stranger to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think my dad was like, it's once in a lifetime to have an opportunity like
Yeah.
this, that and go for it. Similar with Alex's parents was not so easy for his mother. And it's of course just comes out of parent love. It's
Yeah.
so we were at Stanford. That's the place that
Yeah.
exalted and suddenly we're veering off the path. And so I think it's the kind of common mama worrying that just emanates from the utmost love.
So then you had to, raise venture capital, right? Like, were you self-funding this whole time?
That first year, we generated like 750K in revenue, the two of us running the show. And
Wow.
so we were actually our first few employees we hired, we were able to pay for like 4 months, which was exciting. And we were also that fall in the Cardinal crib when we were with our college peers who were doing this with us. We said whatever amount of profits we make, we'll split evenly amongst the five of us.
Mhm.
Um, and everyone made a decent amount of money. And then they went back to school or did something else in winter. And Alec and I were like, okay, let's reinvest ours back into business. We're being pretty scrappy. And so we were self-funded that first year. And then it was when we wanted to hire full-time employees that
Mhm.
in order to give them the comfort to take the leap of faith and join our mission, we needed to have that funding in the bank. And so it was really to invest in building the team out.
And so how did you go about doing that? I mean, it's everyone hears it's like daunting to raise from venture capital. Only 2% go to female founders. Obviously, you have a male co-founder, but what was that like for you? Did they get it? Did they understand? Like you obviously raised, but how long did it take you?
So what was wild was a few things. One, we did hire a more experienced executive and we ended up parting ways after 2 months because we thought we needed that. My
Mhm.
co-founder was like, we a little bit, we were like, yeah, we're kids. We need someone who's seen the ropes before and has gotten this down. And so we brought someone on board and I was kind of like, okay, so you're gonna do this fundraising thing. And they looked at me and were like, Audrey, you're gonna do this fundraising thing. I was like, I was an anti-capitalist a year ago. I'm gonna do, yeah. I was like, what? This is so not what. And I thought it's a little out of character for it's difficult for women to ask for money from people. And
Yeah.
so it was a lot kind of at first to get my head around comfortably. And then I was able to get comfortable with it and confident in it by saying, I believe in this mission and I'm going to pitch that belief and you can be a part of it with us and invest in it and hopefully reap the rewards with us. And how awesome is that? But I had to kind of wrap my head around it in a way to feel really confident because I can speak very confidently when I authentically believe in what I'm saying. So that was kind of a beginning part. And then we were going to raise way less money than we ended up raising, but we reached out to all our first happiest Curious Cardinals parents. We were in some Stanford affiliated incubator called StartX, and the advisor we met through it introduced us to someone who became one of our main investors. But one of our first Curious Cardinals mom introduced us to a parent who was already a Curious Cardinals parent who he had no idea ran a fund. And so we got on a call with him, and his son had not just been learning with us, he had been doing partial homeschooling with us in the pandemic. This
Um,
guy had called us and said, my son loves his Curious Cardinals. He's disengaged in school. Can he do homeschooling with you guys? And this was like 6 months earlier. And I was like, are you crazy? We don't do that. That's not our specialty. And he was like, we can make this work. We figured it out. But I really believe this is going to be the best thing for him. And we were like, okay, we made it work. And so he didn't just experience 1 hour a week of Curious Cardinals. His son was
yeah.
doing design thinking, creative writing, architecture, environmental science, computer science, philosophy, Latin, as a fourth grader, one-on-one with a plethora of our mentors. So when
Hmm.
it came to that conversation, he was like, my son didn't just have a 2x learning experience, he had a 10x learning experience. His learning has never soared as much as it has with his experience with Curious Cardinals. And you shouldn't just raise 1 million, you should raise 5 million. And I want to fund this. And I believe in
Wow.
it wholeheartedly. And we were literally speechless. We were like, this has to be a joke. No way, this is real. I think we were like squeezing each other under the table, like, is this real? We're freaking out. And of course, once you have one major believer, that sets the precedent for others to want to get in the round too. And so that totally changed the game for us. And that happened 6 weeks or 2 months after we first started the process, which felt like a little slow and a lot of back and
Yeah.
forth. And then suddenly we were kind of inundated and overwhelmed with eagerness to get involved.
Yeah. That is amazing. What a great story. It's like one of those right place, right time, you know what I mean? And an opportunity of lifetime and you have to take it, you can't like second guess it. That is awesome. And so can you talk a little bit more about, wait, so what year, sorry, let's go back. What year was that you raised that money?
2021.
Oh, say 2021. Okay, so we're like 3 years later now, and you've grown. And so when you're talking about how you grow the company and, so there's two sides, obviously. It's like the families who are hiring you, but then the mentors. Like, how do you know who are the right people to hire and how do you like train them and how did you figure all that all part out?
I will say across the board, it has been learning by doing. Even the
Yeah.
fundraising thing, I laugh I was so uninformed and so naive, but I think so much of that kind of just curiosity and sheer grit and belief is what propelled you forward. The story is wild, but I think it also, we're so lucky that we had people who love the product, because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have been able to get that money. It probably would have been an idea that maybe someone couldn't have wrapped their head around had they not experienced it firsthand and understood there was something really magical here. And so how did we figure out with the mentors? I think that we have really taken pride in every member of the community, have always been adamant on do things that don't scale and figure out what works and deliver really quality experiences and then operationalize them, then figure out how to make them scale. But I think I interviewed all the first mentors that those first 6 months, first 12 months of Curious Cardinals. And so I interviewed a ton of college students, and I was able to identify what characteristics matter most, what type of leadership experience these people need to have, how they show up in the interviews. Now the interviews even more extensive and a 3-part interview process. And so it's been a lot of reps going through it to gain the confidence to formalize it and hand it off to another team member to own. And then hiring similarly. Now it's been over 3 years of recruiting and hiring, and I've made my share of mistakes. I have not gotten it all right. And I think that I move forward and learn. And so there's a few people it didn't work out, and it's so easy. You can get hard on yourself. You can feel kind of crippled in blame or mistakes, and everything has just been all you can do is move forward. And so there, especially with hiring full-time team members, it's so difficult. And I think finally I feel so much confidence in myself for it. But again, I've made a lot of mistakes. And I think the thing with every mistake or failure is always like, what did I learn from this? Okay, let's move forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is, and you'll do that your entire life, right? You know what I mean? So I love that you're like, I'm learning on the job. I don't get everything perfect. No one ever does. And it's so important to talk about and say, like, yeah, you know what? And, you raised a bunch of money and, you still doesn't mean like you have to get everything perfect. Like they don't, no one does, right? And it's trial and error. And, no one has really done this at scale in this way. Because I know with your mentors in particular, like my son is like really shy, at first. So it's like, it's going to take him a minute. It's got to be that person who can drag the stuff out of him. And just so anybody who's listening, like my son loves sports. I'm a single mom by choice. So, I don't really follow sports. And the fact that he loves them so much is crazy. And so when we first started talking to Curious Cardinals, they were like, oh, well, we could do something where he's doing like sports analytics and things, and he's learning math and he's, applying like his creativity, et cetera. And it's like, of course, like why, you know what I mean? It's like, where else is he going to get that opportunity for somebody, at Dartmouth to be his like buddy who, have a bunch of the same interests, and it's just so like, aha, like such an amazing thing, back to your like making mistakes and learning on the job. Like, what is one thing that you wish if you were going to impart on somebody starting a company that you would be like, okay, do this. I didn't do it right, but like learn from me, you know?
Yeah.
It could be more than one thing.
Lots of things, exactly. I think we did this, but I would say to really take it seriously is kind of find those one to few people, whether it's a formal board you set up or advisors that you have recurring meetings with. Find your own mentors because they're going to see your evolution over time. And you're so in the weeds. Part of being a founder is the constant dance of zone in, zone out, big picture, micro detail,
Yes.
big picture visionary. And you can do that self-reflection yourself, but it's really helpful to have someone be able to identify those patterns over time and see through the highs, through the lows over time. And so find those people and take that time seriously. I at first did monthly updates, then I went to quarterly updates. I think over the past year and a half, I do monthly investor update emails. Do that. I think it's a great thing to hold yourself accountable to, and it helps you with constant reflection. And so I think the biggest thing is you need to become an expert, as I said, of the zoning in and zoning out. And so figuring out how you can do that. And someone once said to me, which was the greatest compliment, that they said, you're the greatest combination of thinker and doer. And so I love that was like, as I said, the best compliment, but I think learning to navigate that of you have to be thoughtful, you have to be a critical thinker, you have to pause to say, damn, I messed that one up, but what did I learn from it? But then you just
Mm-hmm.
have to do. You can't get crippled in your head and by your thoughts. You just have to move forward. And so I think like getting the reps in and learning how to be the best thinker and doer will set you up for success. So maybe those are few things I would tell myself
Yeah,
then.
I mean, I think that is amazing advice, right? Because it's like you can get comfortable with your day to day because you know it all day long, but it's like if you're not thinking, if you're not stepping outside of it, how do you do that? Do you schedule time with yourself to do it, or is it like you just trigger it?
Yeah, I mean, I would take it as its own work stream. I have a work journal and I make myself writing it once a week. Like what's in my mind, what's in my thoughts. Sometimes you're so busy, you're not even unpacking your thoughts. And so I
Mm-hmm.
take that time seriously of like unpack your thoughts, what's going on in there. I even for marketing channels we're exploring, I do a reflection after every event we have. What did I learn from it? What did I take away? And so I maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe I spend 20 minutes, but I always try to take the time to say, you can just add 5 minutes to the end of something. What did I learn from this? And I
Mm-hmm.
try to ingrain that in our culture too, where especially it makes sense we're an education company and lifelong learning is a core value, but always asking people, so what did you learn from that? And I think it causes that pause for reflection. So taking it seriously, taking it as part of my standard operational process and giving it the time as something that I'm executing on, I think allows for it to be a constant, okay, take that time to reflect because if you don't take it, you're not going to be able to unpack. And I also think one of our board members said this, who's that lead investor, she said, listen to your whispers. If you don't, they'll become screams.
Right.
And really, she's an amazing example of listening to your intuition and gut. And so often too, if you feel anxious, if you feel angry, if you feel really happy, like it's super easy to just feel that and not be curious about it. And I always try to be curious. Like, why do I
Yeah.
have a bad feeling about this? Why is this making me feel unsettled? Because there's probably I have a very strong intuition and validating that and giving time and space to validate it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's another common theme on here. It's like follow your intuition, it's there for a reason. And then there's that voice or whisper in your head. It's like listen to that. And then what about like with your co-founder? Like how did you guys decide, how do you split up the responsibilities, et cetera, having not like been out in the, corporate world and understanding what you're really good at and other than really knowing yourself and being self-aware, like how did you decide who would do what?
Again, it started so organically. We are opposites. We
Yeah.
are left brain, right brain. We think very differently. We have completely opposite skill sets and superpowers. And so it was such an easy division of power. And we complement each other so well. I think that it feels like a perfect partnership because we challenge each other in the other way. But it's clear for anyone who's on our team. Audrey's the storyteller. She's gonna like share company goals by sharing the story and how we should feel and how our families should feel. Alex, the tactical engineer operation guy, and he's gonna say the numbers and the metrics and the like this ROI and this operational thing and we push each other in that way and it's a really beautiful symbiotic relationship and so I think that that's why it made sense for that's how we saw so much traction at the beginning is realizing that we fill in ways that what he brings to the table I could never and he feels the
Right.
same about me and it's not and it's just such profound respect for one another and self-awareness and self-confidence and I think the self-confidence is important because you need to be able to say when you're giving each other feedback or pushing back, you need to be able to know when to draw the line and be like, actually, I disagree. Like, totally respect that you don't think this is the right approach, but I have confidence in it and I'm going to move forward. And then know that there's a mutual respect to the other person, be like, okay, fine. And so
Yeah.
I think that that mutual respect and just like being so different and respecting how different we are.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's so interesting because so many people sometimes they start a company where there's two people who are exactly the same, right? That are, and how is that going to work? If you're both in, a certain specialty, somebody's got to do the thing that no one wants, right? Somebody's got to do the numbers if you're not the numbers person. And what about you, like with the numbers? I mean, do you make sure you still understand the broad concepts of what's going on? Yeah.
I've had to push myself a lot. And I think
Mhm.
he pushes me. I think at first it was probably a little bit too much trust in him and like you're got it. And he
Yeah.
would even be like, Audrey, you need to know this. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that he wasn't like, I got it. Like you don't have to worry about it or you're not capable. He's like, I know this is not comfortable for you, but you need to figure it out. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. And so it's been a constant engaging with it and trying to get more comfortable with it and learning by doing. I think a lot of these things have made sense when it's your money in the bank, when it's your ownership, whatever it is, it feels like there's no excuse. I could again think back to like anxious in math, high school Audrey, and it was like, you can't do this. And when there's passion, I think that passion sparks will. It's like, I am not even going to say I can't. I need to figure this out. I need to do this. And so I've been really grateful to be pushed in that way. And even someone on our team said, I'm not technical. I'm the non-technical co-founder, and you don't have to be technical to be a founder. But I definitely in the beginning would be like, I'm not an engineer, I don't know, and would do that too often. And have in the past year become the AI spokesperson and the person on our team really encouraging us to embrace AI, integrate AI into our product, and have now taught like 30 plus AI workshops to parents and even to companies. And so that I think was a really good example of I've gotten so much better at confronting head on the things that I used to be really uncomfortable with or used to think I was
Mm-hmm.
totally capable of, and now kind of find pride in it.
Yeah. And you're like pushing yourself to like, yeah, for something that matters, right? You know what I mean? That's the perfect time to do it is, something that, you really care about and you're building and it's yours and it's for another purpose. So like, yeah, to push yourself to do that. I can completely relate in another thing that I'm doing right now. So this is amazing. And so let me ask you, through this, you've had to learn a lot and learn on the job. And there's always one question that I ask everyone at the end of the podcast, which unfortunately we have to come to an end. And that is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
I was thinking about this. I was like, is there a single piece of advice? And I couldn't pinpoint one piece of advice, but it's anytime anyone has told me to be anything but my authentic, unconditional self, it has been
Hmm.
that advice.
Yeah.
Every time I've showed up to an investor meeting, or this meeting, like trying to put on an act or be someone that's not me, it has not gone as well. And
Hmm.
so now I'm hyper cautious of that. If someone's saying certain show up in this way or do that, I'm like, if that's not me, that's no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, goes back to the intuition. Like you have to trust it no matter what. And so if people want to find you, parents want to find you, and I know that they will want to find you after this, hearing this, how do they go about it? And what is that whole sign up? And you talked it, but like what time commitment is that to like figure it out?
Yeah. Go to curiouscardinals.com, Curious Cardinals. Go to our Instagram, LinkedIn if you want to engage with us, hear our stories, subscribe to our newsletter, but you can go to our website and literally press get matched for free. And if you create an account, you can browse through all of our mentors, see our FAQs, and learn more about the platform. And it's a subscription. You meet weekly with a mentor and every month and you set certain milestones and goals to work towards. And so it's all, as we said, every student and mentor sets SMART goals together, specific, measurable, action-oriented results, time-bound, and really are working towards specific milestones. And our goal is to be able to support students on those transitions from one school year to the next, from summer to fall. But of course, some parents say, I want to work with you during the school year and pause during the summer. We have Camp Curious this summer. We're doing group workshops this summer, which we're really excited about. And you sign up to speak with someone on our team at Curious Cardinals and get matched to a mentor. So that's how it works.
I love
And
it.
we support, as I said, K through 12. So we have kids that run the gamut. And for people who want to learn more, we also have a lot of community events. We have virtual events all the time. We have in-person events locally. I'm excited for you to hopefully come to one of our New York
Yeah,
City
I
events.
am too.
And the community is really, really phenomenal. And I would say that's something I've also been grateful for is I've met most of my most impactful mentors I've met because they've been Curious Cardinals moms and they've been like, I see your hustle and I love what you're doing here. And it's
Hmm.
impacted my child firsthand. And that's where I've really met the majority of my mentors. And the community, as I was saying, two of your former podcast guests, it's like such an amazing type of person that gravitates toward this because I think it's the type of people who reflected on the mentors in their own career or the mentors they wish they had earlier on and
Hmm.
want that for their kids.
I love it. I love it. Just anything that excites and, this passion to kids about learning is amazing. So, congratulations on all you've done and all you've accomplished. And I'm really excited for you and your future. And everybody should check out Curious Cardinals. because I know that my kids are are already so like involved and excited about it. So thank you so much, Audrey, for coming on, taking care of lady business. And for everyone listening, until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.